The Orange Democratic Movement is experiencing sharp divisions due to the contentious BBI debate. One faction seems to be suspicious of a seemingly betrayal from the Jubilee camp, while the other faction, led by Janet Mohammed, believes the handshake is still intact. Namukene Samuel, our political reporter, spoke to different political analysts and politicians to understand the politics of betrayal on the political puzzle.
There's nothing that is going to make that BBI be stopped.
I truly believe deep down that the referendum is going to pass.
The opposition as it is right now is more or less dead.
We know that it doesn't matter what anybody says, we must of essence have a referendum.
Since the inception of the Building Bridges initiative after the famous handshake on the 9th of March 2018, things haven't been smooth in the ruling party, as well as its relationship with the Orange Democratic Movement as anticipated after the handshake.
So for them to have a handshake, obviously you see, we were at a strange time where the president by then had been sworn in, then Raila had taken the people's oath, he was being called the people's president. They were talking about how we need to separate Kenya, or actually have two countries, like what happened in Sudan.
It is not the the choice of state operatives or government to determine what goes to a referendum or what doesn't, because the Constitution already sets out under Article 255 what matters if you want to amend must of essence go to a referendum.
At first, the Tanga faction was the first to notice the malicious move after the handshake, claiming that it was a move to endorse Raila Odinga for the top seat come 2022.
The deputy president is looking at the next election in 2022. President is looking at the next generation by introducing the BBI and eventually the rebirth, a new constitutional dispensation.
Less than a year later, ODM is in the same pot, sensing betrayal and mischief.
And the challenges that BBI is facing are very grave challenges, because out of the total number of county assemblies that passed the Building Bridges initiative draft, only 11 of those county assemblies actually passed the correct, original, legitimate bill. Therefore, that's the challenge number one. Because if only 11 county assemblies got the original bill, then it means that, they haven't met the threshold of the 24 county assembly, in which case then, if we were to go by the Constitution of Kenya, then, it ends there. It means that, it didn't pass the county assembly, and so therefore the bill has been thrown out.
As far as the referendum is concerned, the timetable is also set not by those mandarins in government, but by the events themselves that precede the referendum. As a party, our position is that we cannot have a referendum together with the election.
The first sign of betrayal was during the BBI popularization campaigns, where the rallies were purely led by Raila Odinga, while his new ally Uhuru Kenyatta snubbed the campaigns.
If we were following the Constitution anyway, at the point where the chair of IEBC, Chebukati, came out and said that he did not print any copies, that he received copies and distributed copies. At that point, then, the process was already flawed, because the proper process is that whoever is pushing for a bill then gives one original copy to IEBC.
I personally have not seen such agreement. These gentlemen were, gracious enough to make public, the context or the content and the text of the agreement. Everything that was contained in the agreement was reduced into writing, and any other, speculation is just that.
What seemed to be the second sign of betrayal was the referendum date.
And I want to be very careful. I think and I believe that if the system wants this referendum, we are going to have a referendum. So the question then becomes, are we going to pass the bill or not? And I still believe that even if a majority of Kenyans would probably not want to push for that referendum, I truly believe deep down that the referendum is going to pass.
Now, the pertinent question raised was the Building Bridges initiative used as a bait to tame the growing influence of Raila Odinga in the country. The referendum showdown was supposed to end this year on June, but it seems the Orange Party has to wait a little bit longer. With the raging Building Bridges initiative drama, a section of leaders allied to Raila Odinga are now sensing betrayal. After President Kenyatta locked down the 5 COVID-19 red zone counties on March 26th, all political activities were suspended, thus derailing the implementation of the Building Bridges initiative. Less than a month later, the Speaker of the National Assembly and Senate called the MPs from recess to discuss and pass the bill in order to allow it to head to referendum. But this wasn't the case.
So, I mean, these are challenges that if you ask me, because I know that the drivers of this initiative will do everything in their power to make sure that this bill passes. I foresee that they'll use the route of saying that the Attorney General is now, ensuring that the draft bill is within the Constitution and is therefore going to edit the typos, blah, 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 and bring back a draft which will reflect on the draft that the 1 million Kenyans actually assented their signatures to.
The BBI bill also received a major blow after it was discovered that only a total of 13 counties assented on the right bill.
I think there's a lot to question on what processes we are following, but one would argue in the interests of the public, the 1 million people who have signed this bill, in the interests of peace and political stability, and all sorts of other things that you'd argue in terms of saying, let us just, find a way to make this thing pass. I think that is the route that we are going now.
During the second BBI reading, the bill at the Senate was different in some articles compared to the bill at the National Assembly. MPs dismissed this, claiming it was a typographical error.
And then it went to the county assemblies. It was equally passed. Then now coming to National Assembly, which consider it passed as we speak, because there's nothing that is going to make that BBI be stopped at the National Assembly. Everything is set and BBI is going to pass. And after that, we'll go to the people to decide, of which I know that the people will decide on a positive note for the BBI to pass. And let's expect a new constitutional dispensation.
It is now just a matter of time before we separate chaff from wheat in the BBI politics. Namkana Samuel, Switch TV, Nairobi.